and off-duty firefighters, and 50% to individual veterans and firefighters in need nationwide. Check out neverforgottenapparel.com. Use promo code MATT, M-A-T-T, and get 15% off your purchase.
Oh, bacon. Bacon on the brain, man. Bacon on the brain. It is Patrick Mosher, Food Biz Pro, right here on Spoony Radio. It is Friday. It is the first course of Friday's full 4-course meal. Today on the menu, during the appetizer course, bacon. Because everybody thinks that Chef Patrick doesn't like bacon. But, I like bacon. I just don't like bacon on everything. I don't like bacon in everything. I don't like everything to taste like bacon. Bacon is bacon. Everything else is everything else. But I digress. I'm looking through some news stories here to try and find something interesting for my daily bacon report. And I came across a couple that work. The first one is Vivera. This is a big company. They're a meatless or a vegetable-based or plant-based meat company. And it says, Vivera to launch vegan bacon. The next story, Vivera expands meat alternative portfolio with new bacon pieces. If you're vegan, I'm just pondering this for a second. So if you're vegan, let me try to think of this logically. If you're vegan, you've tried bacon or eaten animal for some conscious reason, some self-imposed reason, or some enlightenment you've come to, you decide you should not eat animal anymore. It's still okay to eat something like tastes like the animal that you're not allowed to eat. So you really want to eat it, but you can't eat it, so you can eat something made of vegetables that tastes like it. Now, if it didn't taste so good, we wouldn't want to eat it, right? So, I mean, why does it taste so good in the first place? Well, there's fat. There's flavor. There's meat. It's salty because it's cured, right? That's what flavor is. So you don't want to eat bacon because it's not ethical, but you'll eat something that mimics bacon, and you might, matter of fact, somebody eating it might not even know it's not bacon, really, if it's good. But that's okay. I mean, wouldn't you just want to kind of shy people away from eating anything that tastes like bacon or looks like bacon or smells like bacon? Isn't that the point? Because if you eat in it, it's really good. You're like, this is pretty good. But man, I wonder what real bacon tastes like. Well, you've primed the pump. They're going to run right down to McDonald's and get that triple bacon, whatever they make now, because everything's bacon now at McDonald's, by the way. And they'll add it to anything that you order. I don't know how much it costs. Jeff, you want to interject? It's okay. You can. I see you, brother. I see you. Jeff, you're a bacon eater, aren't you? Or are you a bacon hater?
No, man. Are you baking everything? Bacon ice cream? Peanut butter and jelly and bacon?
Really?
Oh, yeah.
So peanut butter, jelly, and bacon. I've had, you know what's good, surprisingly good, is bananas and bacon.
Yeah, that's good too.
So because you got the crispy, crunchy, salty bacon, and you've got that creamy kind of slightly. It's not, bananas aren't super sweet, but they're sweet enough to kind of be an opposite flavor to the really good opposition to the bacon, especially if it's really crispy. But do you understand that logic? I mean, look, you're not supposed to eat bacon, but we're going to make you think you're eating bacon by making a plant-based product that looks and smells and tastes like bacon, but don't eat bacon because it's bad.
Here's my thing. I'm a recovering alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a friend of mine ask me, or, offer me something called near beer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I was like,
non-alcoholic beer.
What is that? Right.
Less than one.
I'm looking at the label and everything, and it's like point whatever. And I'm like, why? Why would I do that? If I'm trying to stay away from it altogether,
Mm-hmm.
why would I want to have anything that resembles it at all? So, I mean, of course, I thanked them, but I was like, no, I'm good. Thanks.
Well, and that's the thing. You've primed the pump now, right? Like I said, now, or the Impossible Burger. You take a bite, and I'll tell you, the Impossible Burger, it's pretty good. It's, for what it is, it's a pretty good plant-based meat-looking product, and it tastes pretty much like burger does. But now, if it's really good, aren't you just going to want to have you're like, God, that's really good. But man, there's nothing like a double bacon cheeseburger made at home. The big greasy ones that you didn't have a hamburger bun. Your mom never bought hamburger buns because you're too poor. She was, didn't get to the market. So you had it between two pieces of bread, and the grease used to soak through. And now when you go to a place, you're like, oh man, I wish I had the bread again. I just want 2 slices of white bread. Why is it that we can't eat animals, but vegans want us to eat stuff that looks and tastes like animals? That's the question. I'm not saying vegetarian isn't bad. I went completely vegan for a while. I didn't eat honey for a while. That was all. Yeah, don't look at me like that, Jeff. I'm not. Yeah, whatever. It was stress related. I was living in Japan, and when you're in Japan, you got to go out and you got to drink because you entertain clients. And man, I'm telling you, you go out and you don't come home until it's time to go to work. I mean, they're really, really rough on you there. It's brutal. But somebody had to do it. So I was a young man on totem pole, and I was entertaining. I could speak Japanese and some English, but I had these really bad panic attacks, and I cut out everything. No caffeine, no alcohol. Went completely vegan. I slowly added back in fish, pesca vegetarian. Then I added ovo-lacto, so I added dairy and milk back in. And then I was like, screw it, I might as well just have a hamburger and some big steaks. But I didn't do 3 years without alcohol and about 10 or 11 years without caffeine.
So how'd you feel? Seriously, in that period of time?
Actually, I felt pretty good. I was still what I noticed at that time, and not to get, this is not Health Talk Fridays, but, to be in all honesty, I was having really bad panic attacks, serious panic attacks. And it was a culmination of many things, mostly stress level. But when you add to that the alcohol and the caffeine consumption, which in Japan, I'm telling you, you live on cigarettes, nicotine, alcohol, and caffeine. It's ridiculous. I mean, ridiculous. And Japanese, actually, most Japanese, natives, they don't process alcohol very well. So if you ever see someone that turns like beet red when they start drinking, what's happening is the alcohol doesn't process through the liver; it just keeps going around and around through the body, and and they keep adding to that, and it just compounds the effect of the alcohol. And that's why after like 3 or 4 drinks, they're staggering drunk and they can barely catch the train, and they end up falling asleep in front of the station or in the windows of the McDonald's, which I often saw the same gentleman sleeping there every Saturday night when I came home. True story. But all of that added together, plus the immense workload, it really took its toll. And I was having really bad panic attacks. Like I couldn't even get out of a train. It was so bad. So I cut that out of my diet. And actually, after about 6 months, I was feeling really, really good. I lost 25 pounds, started riding a mountain bike again, and was really taking care of myself, came back and got involved in the Body for Life program when I was living in LA. It was good. It was great. But, then I discovered bacon and alcohol again, and I have a little bit of caffeine now and then, and I regret it because, Jeff, you'll see me. I'll be sitting here in the morning. Hey, Jeff, how are you? And, I'm getting ready to produce a show or sit in the booth with you, and I'll have a little bit of coffee, and I'm like, hey, Jeff, what are we going to do today? I mean, what should I talk about today? Hey, wait, Trey's coming on. Let me check the mic. Oh, I don't know. Gwen shows live. It's okay. Shh, she won't know. It's okay. Let me test the mic.
Yeah, we changed the locks on the door as a result of that too. Just FYI.
I don't think you saw my post on Facebook the other day. It's like Trey had said, hey, Randy White was doing a show the other day, last Monday, and Trey said, hey, get out of my studio. And Randy said, that's what happened when you leave the door open. And I said, yeah, you never know what kind of riffraff you're going to get in here. I said, I can't even believe I actually gave myself a key to the studio. But anyway, back to the bacon / whatever conversation I went to. I cut all that stuff out of my diet, and I lost a ton of weight. My total cholesterol when I left Japan, total cholesterol count, was 98 total. So my doctor was actually very worried. I had a final checkup before I left. This is like 93, 94. And they did extensive blood work, and he was very concerned. And he looked at me and he said, he goes, have you gone vegan? Because I hadn't had a checkup in about a year and a half. And I said, yes. And he goes, you could see the relief in his face. He thought there was something they couldn't correct. I was really ill or something. He said, okay, everything else is fine, but your cholesterol was so low. We were very concerned about you. And I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm okay. He goes, okay, well, go home. Bye. Sayonara. Back to America. So home I came. And that's when I started eating bacon again. And I came across this really cool recipe. So look, I don't care if you're vegan. I don't care if you're vegetarian. I don't care if you eat meat. I just don't know why you have to have something look and taste like something that it's not. I know if you feel like you're missing out, I mean, I kind of get it. If you were a meat eater, you're a carnivore, and you went to herbivore strictly, and you really, really miss the taste of burnt flesh, right? Roasted rump, whatever you want to call it. Rump roast, get it? Ha, ha, ha. Dude, Jeff, don't look at me like I'm crazy.
Burnt flesh. I mean, why?
Did you see that picture I had? Oh, you didn't see the picture from that I have. It used to be on my Facebook back the background picture.
Okay.
It's these steaks on a grill searing, and the flames are coming up through the grill. It's very cool. It's live wood. It's wood, live flame from wood, no charcoal. It's awesome. But there's something about you have this little char on the outside of the meat. For me, when you do a really hard sear on a steak, it adds a different level of texture and flavor. So even if it's rare, I like a really hard sear on the outside. You get that caramelization, which gives you, there are like 300 and some odd, or maybe more than that, flavors in that brown stuff you get that caramelizes on the outside of a steak, any kind of meat. And they can't reproduce that flavor. You'll see caramel coloring and caramel flavor, but that caramelization, you can't mimic that chemically, right? There's something special that happens with the sugars and the way that they chemically act with the heat. So that being said, we have this fascination in this country, well, in society in general. We want to make soy milk look and kind of taste like cheese, right? We want to take peanut butter. Well, peanut butter's peanut butter, right? Peanuts are peanut butter. That's not a big deal. Oh, but you can't call it peanut butter anymore. Not in Arizona anyway. Did you hear that law, Jeff? Yeah. So
what?
Yeah, in Arizona, and I have to call friends of mine. I grew up with a family called the Basha family in Arizona, and Eddie Basha, his father founded this grocery store chain in the early 1900s. They had one local community grocery store. They built a couple of them, and then now they have this big chain there. And I'm not sure how many they have anymore, but then they have a higher end. It's kind of like a Kroger, and then they have a higher end, kind of not higher end, a more organically based store, kind of like a smaller version of Whole Foods called AJ's Market. And they do wonderful products, great family. But I was reading about this law in Arizona, and I've spoken about it on the air before. You can't call anything that's not dairy-based, animal dairy-based, you can't call it butter or milk, right? So peanut butter can only be called peanut butter. You can't call cashew milk cashew milk. I don't know if you call it cashew juice because there's no juice in cashews. The way it's made is you soak them in water, then you puree it and you strain out the solids. That's how those nut milks are made. So I'm curious as to how this has affected the grocery industry. I'm not sure if I know it passed. I don't know when it's enacted, when it goes live. But how does that impact your business? Right now, you have all this if it's immediate, it can't be immediate. It has to be 6 months or a year minimum. But think about that now. Not just are you changing the product that you order, you have to order a different product. You have to change all of your order guides. So everything that's printed on the shelf, all those shelf tags in front of the little things with a barcode says you how much per ounce, so on and so forth. All those have to be reprinted. How much labor does it take to replace all of those? And now you have to retrain staff, right? Now do you have to recategorize things because of the way that they're named and where they're placed on the shelf and in which part of the store? It's got to be confusing, not to mention the lag time between, because just-in-time ordering is very important for all sectors of industry right now. And I don't know if you ever heard about the Six Sigma and things like that, where you get a black belt and it's like lean production, but it applies to all, pretty much all industries now. What that means is you don't order anything until you get to a certain par level. You have only a few left so that you know just as you run out of the last one, the new batch arrives. It's a tricky science, but it works if you work at it really well, really hard, and you know your data. But now what happens when you have this new production that's coming out with new labels and you have the old stuff on the shelf and you're trying to time this because is the new stuff going to sell as well the old stuff? Are there going to be delays in labeling? So you order the product that might not come in. Are you going to have blank shelves on the store? There's just all sorts of complications with it. Plus, now the guest, the client, the end consumer is confused. Peanut butter is now called peanut spread? Is it, I don't know. What do you call it? It's going to have to be peanut spread. And if you cannot call it, you can't leave peanut butter, even though it's been around for 100 and some odd years. If you can't call it peanut butter, what are you going to call it? Jeff, you got a name for it? No? Yeah. Come on. We talked about one that's called tiger nut milk. Have you heard of that one? Wrong mic. He's getting ready to speak in my ear. No, it's okay.
No, it's all good. I'm sitting here thinking peanut butter is peanut butter. What would you rename it? Well,
peanut spread, I guess.
Why not?
Yeah, you're going to have to.
What was it that they called butter? Actual butter when it wasn't really butter. It was like margarine, right? Or something like that, and then they came out with another one. And
well, I could see how you have to distinguish margarine from butter, right? Because one is chemically made, and one is, I mean, they basically bombard a liquid fat with hydrogen until it turns solid at room temperature. That's how they make margarine. And then butter is just, milk that's been churned, and that the cream has been churned and it turns solid.
How about creamy peanuts?
Well, you can't. Can you? Well, I guess you could say creamy because that's a description, not anything to do with dairy, right?
Right.
In theory.
There you go.
Interesting. I don't know, but it's going to be interesting to find out what happens. So I need to call the Bash family. My old employer Eddie Bash is gone now, but I'm one of the boys could probably tell me. I'm curious how that's going to affect legislation across the rest of the United States as well. I mean, that also goes to tell you that goes to show you how much power or influence, rather, these organizations like that's got to be the Dairy Council of Arizona must have initiated this act. So just like in Missouri, they wanted to say that no plant-based proteins that look like something that's animal-based can be called meat, right? You can't have vegetarian meat. You can't have you can't call it a burger either. Now, a burger though to me isn't that a shape? It's a patty, right? I mean, is a burger necessarily? I don't think a burger necessarily means is it?
No, to me, it's just a small meatloaf with bread.
All right. Well, I digress. I'm getting semantics. All right. Burger, but I want to know the definition now, right?
A burger?
So a burger to me is actually, well, that's German though. Burger, a particular variation of a hamburger with additional or substitute ingredients, a veggie burger. So, short for hamburger. I don't know. I'm curious now. A sandwich similar to a hamburger, tofu burgers, often used in combination. Ah, see? Webster's already has it, but now you can't call it a burger anymore. So what are they going to do? I don't know. Hamburglar, come out and tell us what to do. Is he even around anymore, or is it just Ronald McDonald? All right. Anyway, look, all this bacon stuff I was talking about, I really came across this great-looking appetizer. It's called bacon-wrapped jalapeno chicken thighs with stout barbecue sauce. Does that not sound good?
Oh, yeah.
Sounds delicious to me.
Sounds like you should make it over the weekend and bring it in.
Oh, man, yeah, that's a good idea. So these are, it's a pretty simple recipe. The barbecue sauce is ketchup, brown sugar, molasses, wine or red wine vinegar, chipotle with adobo, which chipotle peppers are good on their own, but that adobo sauce is really good. It's that kind of spicy, it's like almost like a tomato sauce around it. It's really good. A half teaspoon of smoked paprika and salt. So obviously you simmer that down until it's nice and gooey and thick and tastes like barbecue sauce. Now, for you have this is going to be. So all right, I got to go to reader view. Here's another thing. I'm not just mad at Facebook. All right, Passionate Patrick's coming out in a very calm way, trying to get through and digest or even read the information on a screen on a computer, which my computer may not be here today. I may be working on an iPad. We may have had an accident, which is why I was not here yesterday.
What was the accident, Patrick? It seems like you want to gloss over that.
I wet my keyboard.
Oh, don't worry. It happens to everybody.
But,
usually at a younger age, but, it's okay.
I have a sippy cup for a reason, folks. I have a sippy cup right here. This Yeti, I have this for a reason because I'm clumsy. I tend to, whenever there are liquids and electronics around, for some reason, I tend to put them really close to each other and then turn really quickly and spill the liquid on the electronics. It's happened more than once. I've done it in this studio. I've done it in the Mojo studio. And the other night I did it all by myself, not in a studio, on a conference table. I turned a little too quickly. I don't know why. The Yeti was filled all the way right to the top. Oh, right. I mean, right, like I could barely get the lid on without drinking a little bit to make sure it fit because it was going to splash out on me. And so anyway, I knocked the Yeti over and a little bit splashed on the keypad, the little touchpad on my MacBook Air. And apparently it didn't like that. There's a control board under there. So
when you say a little bit,
it really wasn't. It was about a quarter of a teaspoon, but it went around the edge of that. And it went down through there before I could get it all. I flipped it over and I went and got a towel. And a little bit, like probably a drop went between the keys. There were a couple of drops sitting between the keys, one on top of the keys. But you could see it I could see it weeping over the edge before I could get to the, it's like slow motion. No way, so I dive for it. I'm trying to flip it over and, and I may have or may have not bruise my forehead on the side of the table when I dove for it. But no, I didn't do that. I was only like 6 inches away, or probably not even that far. But the way I spun around so fast, you thought I was like running for the game-winning catch of the football game. Anyway, so my computer is at the shop. We'll just say it's in the shop. And what I've noticed, though, it's even more noticeable now with the iPad. When I'm trying to read a recipe or anything on a page, there are 15,000 ads that are right in the middle of the recipe. So what should say, here's a great bacon wrapped chicken thigh recipe, and then here's what you need for the barbecue sauce. Not just the brown sugar, chipotle adobo. There are also, now, between that part and the next 6 ingredients, there are 2 ads placed, strategically between those. And then here comes some more ingredients, instead of listing out the other 6 that are necessary for the sauce. So, yeah, I'm a little daft. I'm not completely stupid, but I'm a little daft, right? I'm a little slow. I get that. My mother didn't call me special for no reason. But it makes it really difficult. There's so much marketing that goes on in everything that we look at, everything we read, everything we touch. It's frustrating. But what I do like is, not for all pages, but yes, I know, if you're not an Apple person, I'm sorry. You cover your ears. But the fact that has reader view, and you click, if you go into the browser bar, or whatever it's called, whatever the bar is up there, and you push the little thing that looks like a page with the, it looks like a page. I don't know. It looks like lines of writing, and it just gives you the writing. It's beautiful. Sometimes they mess with you on that, but it's beautiful. All right, so I'm going to post this recipe because, let's see. We got stout beer, brown sugar, red wine vinegar, chipotle with adobo, smoked paprika, onion powder, garlic powder. Now it sounds better. Onion powder, garlic powder, cayenne, fresh ground black pepper, chili powder, and ground cinnamon. Now the cinnamon, actually, believe it or not, in a barbecue sauce is really good, as long as it's just a touch. In this case, you have about 3.5 cups of sauce, and you only get 1/8 of a teaspoon of ground cinnamon, which is more than enough to give it a good aroma, but not too much that you get that cinnamon taste, because cinnamon can be a very overpowering flavor. So you take all that, you put it in a blender till it's smooth. I don't think you need to do that. I suppose if you're going to use the chipotles, you do, because you need to blend those up. But so I would actually just take the chipotle, the red wine vinegar, and that's probably it. Just those 2, and puree them up and scoop them out. What happens is, if you put all of that in there, because there's only one liquid, the red wine vinegar, and the adobo, the chili with adobo, that adobo sauce, it's going to get really thick when you start adding all these spices and the sugar, and you're going to lose more of it in the blender. It's going to stick. It's going to stick to the sides, down underneath the blade. So as little going into the blender in this case is better. And then you put the rest in the saucepan, heat it for about 20 minutes, and then it's pretty straightforward. Now, the problem with reader view is that's the end of the recipe. It doesn't tell you what to do with the chicken thighs. So now I got to go back to ugly view, and that's pretty much what it says right there. No more recipe. I'm going to guess that you take the chicken thighs, you actually wrap them with bacon, and you put them in an oven at about, see, they're using boneless chicken thighs. I don't know if I do that. You lose a lot of moisture, although chicken thighs are dark meat, so they hold a lot more moisture. They have a lot more fat content. That muscle's been working a lot. It has good blood flow, not like the breast. Chickens don't really fly, so it doesn't get any exercise, but the legs and the thighs are the best. So they're taking boneless chicken thighs. They take jalapeno peppers and string cheese. And what they're doing is they take the chicken thigh, lay it out on a cutting board, pound them out a little bit just so they're even, and then you basically you take a popper. The popper is the jalapeno and the bacon and the string cheese. So you take a half of a jalapeno, scoop out the seeds, put half of a string cheese in there, right? So you got basically 1/4 of that, looks like a heart of palm cut in 4 pieces. Put that in there, wrap the chicken around it, wrap that in bacon, toothpick it up, and then you bake it. And that's going to go in the oven at, I don't know. It doesn't say. One more time. So I'm going to say that goes in at 375 for about 35 minutes, 30 to 35 minutes. When the bacon is crispy, then I'm pretty sure at 375 to 400, the chicken will be done. If not, or you're not sure, take a thermometer, make sure it's 165 inside, because we don't want you getting salmonella. All right, hey, the first course is done. Not as easy to digest as I thought it would be, but not too bad for Friday since I had Thursday off. But if you hold on tight, my sister Karen's going to call in. We're going to talk a little fun on Friday. So come on back. Soup and salad's next. We may even talk about soup and salad.
Follow Chef Patrick Mosher on Twitter at Food Biz Pro.
Why have thousands of aspiring authors teamed up with Christian Faith Publishing to publish their book? Because Christian Faith Publishing is an author-friendly publisher who understands that your labor is more than just a book. We provide authors freedom and flexibility throughout the publishing process, professional book editing, award-winning design, and some of the highest royalty structures in the publishing industry. And as always, you will retain 100% of the rights to your book.
I was looking to find a company that I could trust, one that assisted in the editing process completely.
The most important qualities that I was looking for was a publisher who was honest and upfront, no hidden costs or fees, and owning the rights to my own work.
Christian Faith Publishing will publish, market, and sell your books in all major bookstores, online booksellers, as well as specialty Christian bookstores. Call for your free author submission kit.
800-978-4812. 800-978-4812. 800-978-4812. That's 800-978-4812.
Dr. Ken Brown here, host of Gut Check Project with my co-host Eric Rieger. I've seen in my practice that Atrantil is a whole lot more than just a bloating product.
Yes, it does a whole lot more than just fix bloating because of the polyphenols that you find in Atrantil.
What are some of the things that these polyphenols do, Eric?
These polyphenols can help you have more energy, and polyphenols are great for athletes.
It sounds like it's going to help a whole lot more people than just bloating. Go to lovemytummy.com/Spoony.
Take the pain out of ordering your diabetic testing supplies with Diathrive. Diathrive ships the testing supplies you need directly to you when you need them. Best of all, with plans starting as low as $8 a month, Diathrive is probably going to cost you less than what you're paying today. Diathrive is so convinced that you'll love their service, they're offering your first month of supplies free. Simply type the code DOC, D-O-C, at checkout. Diathrive.com. That's D-I-A, thrive.com.
And it's Super Salad Friday, or is it Soup and Salad Friday, or is it just salad, or just, I don't even know if we're talking Super Salad, but this is the second course of the Food Biz Pro Show right here on, let's try that in, the second course of the Food Biz Pro Show right here on Spoony Radio. How you doing? You're looking good today, Jeff.
Thank you, man. You are cracking me up.
You know what? It's Friday. You know, Friday's like frivolous fun for me.
Right.
Because I know when it's done after 2 short hours on Friday, that the weekend is here, you know, and that's, more food and fun on the weekend, right? That's what we do, food and fun.
Right on.
All right. So I do have a caller on the line. I believe that I may have a caller of someone I might actually know. Hello? Can you hear me?
Hello.
Come into the light.
Can you hear me now?
Come into the light. That was one of my all-time favorite movies, by the way, Poltergeist.
Not mine.
No? You didn't like scary movies, did you?
No, no scary movies for me.
Karen, how you doing? This might say everyone.
No way.
So I'd like to welcome Karen Mosher, Carrie, my sister, one of my 3 favorite sisters. You are one of my 3 very favorite sisters, by the way.
Sure. I'm your favorite sister. No, just kidding.
Yeah, of the 3, you're one of the favorite of the 3. Yes.
Exactly,
you know, I always tell Damien you're my favorite son, and Bailey you're my very favorite daughter. So
there you go.
Yeah, that's all. The only 2 I know about. So, and actually, I somehow got a message from Damien that I don't know where it came from, and it disappeared. But I'm sure I'll find it after the show. So, all
right.
What's happening in your neck of the woods? It's springtime in upstate New York. The birds are singing. The sun should be shining, and
it is shining today.
Mm-hmm.
But it has been mostly raining.
Oof.
And it is absolutely stunning out, though, because it is rich in flowers and scents, and it is just so magically beautiful.
Now,
yeah,
I know. So it is a beautiful area. I really, people think I'm crazy when I say I miss upstate New York. It is really beautiful up there. I mean, and the rolling hills when you go, it's indescribable. And when fall comes around, it's even more, I don't know, it's not, I want to say romantic, but more like romantic as you look at life, it's such a cool, the variation in colors along this, these, because New York doesn't really have any tall mountains. We have these rolling mountains, kind of like the Smoky Mountains almost. But it's beautiful. It's such a beautiful area. And our family, up in Vermont, going up there in the wintertime and summertime, it's quite a place to be. But I digress.
It is.
It is.
It's beautiful here.
It's gorgeous. It is. And so let's talk about Saratoga. Saratoga has some very unique things that, that whole region. So our father worked in a paper mill, and not far from there, where we grew up in Corinth, if you're from there, which we're not from there, so we say Corinth. Which was that was the oldest paper mill in the country, right? And down the road in Saratoga, you have still the oldest active track in the country. I think it's the second oldest ever built. The oldest was in Massachusetts. And then it's the oldest harness racing track. It's got one of the biggest races of the year, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that goes year round. Yeah. Amazingly.
Well, what's the big? Come on, what's our favorite weekend there, though?
Travers.
And you know who was one of the first? Well, you know what horse? The Travers Cup was one of the very first. It was the first big race they won. I think it was Secretariat, I believe. That was the very first big race that Secretariat won, which I didn't know.
No.
Was it Man of War?
Is that true?
Was it Man of War? It was one of the big. It was one of the big horses that from back in the day. But I think it was the very first race they had won, actually. But again, I digress. What's cool about Saratoga is you can take your children there and they give them Monopoly money, and for a day they can bet on the horses for free. So they program you from like 6 years old. So when you grow up, you're like, hey, let's go gambling. Where's the OTB office? And for those of you who don't know what that is, look up OTB. Okay, it's off-track betting.
Well, and not everyone loves it because it brings like millions of tourists. But I grew up working in restaurants. And not millions, but thousands and,
thousands and thousands
and thousands of people that come into town every day. And it is, I have such a good feeling about it because I worked in restaurants. Mm-hmm. And also like Travers Day, the whole Travers Day thing and the thoroughbred horses. And for me, it's like, a joyful time of year. For other people, it's like traffic and too many people and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, but also, if you own property there, it's a great time to lease your house out for the summer for, $5,000, $10,000, whatever, ridiculous amounts of money.
Oh, yeah. 20, exactly. 30, 40, absolutely.
That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. Yeah. In a good way. I mean, that's exciting, but so what, okay, you told me a really funny story about me.
Which one?
Okay, so Karen and I talk. We talk quite frequently because she's a life coach and she also works with businesses and organizations. I mean, Karen, why don't you give a little more? It's Ruby Red Road, but I know you're working on another brand. You're going that direction, but why don't you tell people a little more about what you do?
Right. Well, I work with individuals. I work with executives and their teams, and I really help people get clear, focused, and aligned so that they can have, a great business and life, the life that they want. I generally work with people who are really ready for change, hungry for change. And then one of the other things that I use sometimes is what's called culture talk to help people with their culture and their personal branding as well, which is it's about archetypes. And you can look that up, but that's like who you are, how you show up in the world, how you see the world, et cetera, et cetera. And my goal is always to create a more collaborative environment, whether it's an individual or a team or an owner, so that people kind of get each other and they can respect, and there's not all the judgment and the clashing, and people learn how to work together, and they're in the right place. Some people are misvocated because they think they should go a certain path, but really it's not how they identify in the world. So that's a little bit about me.
Well, it's funny.
A little bit of passion there.
Yeah, well, it's funny you talk about that because we had a little discussion before the show started about what are we going to talk about today? So going forward, Karen is going to be on the show with me Mondays and Fridays. Friday will be a little more fun and, lighthearted. And Mondays will be a little more hard-hitting, like a 2x4 between the eyes about getting you motivated. Or maybe just giving you some information to go out and empower you to do what you really want to pursue. And,
right.
There's a great saying. It says, don't let your music die in you. Right. So in other words, whatever your passion is, get it out there, make the world, change the world, or at least share it with the world, even, if it doesn't come to whatever you think it should come to. So,
well, another one that I like, Patrick, is you were born an original, don't die a copy.
Well, yeah, but good artists, copy, great artists steal. We could go back and forth like this for hours, actually. But
we could, yeah. Anyway.
Well, so our mother was a voracious reader, and she would often, she would just throw out some statement. And, I've looked forever. This is actually an opening statement to a book, and I've never been able to find the book because she would never tell me. It's "The boy stood on the deck of the burning ship," and that's it. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Yeah, I know. And it's something she read when she was a child. And I'm like, and it's not it's whatever it is. I mean, maybe I could find it now. I'm trying not to Google it, though. Like, I've tried to organically find this. Okay. I'm sure somebody's going to tell me. Richard Brown probably knows, but we'll figure it out later. But she would often just throw out these little quips, right? And I'd be like, where did that come from? Like, I'd be like, oh, what's up? And she'd be nothing but the price of rice in China. Like, where did that come from?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
We'll talk about archetyping in just a second. But you told me I was talking about coming back in the summer times and all the wonderful restaurants we went to, because you always worked at least one restaurant. And had your hair salon, and you were either working for your own place, or you're working for another salon for I don't know how many years, but. Can I tell you?
A long time.
Can I tell you that time when you were still in school, my sister learned to cut hair. Okay. This may be where my love for chocolate milk came. We were sitting at this school called Bosie's. It's a vocational school, and you were learning to cut hair. And I don't know, I was one of your first victims. And I mean, victims. But you nicked the back of my ear, back where the ear meets the side of your head. And you nicked it, and I
did that twice. Once was you.
Yeah, and I bled like a half a drop.
Yeah.
But you felt so bad. I got 3 cartons of milk for the rest of that haircut. You were like, oh, wait. So you went and got like 1 carton of milk. I finished it right away, and you got another one. I still remember that. I was 5. I don't know how years old. So I think I've always been programmed with food, right? I've always been programmed with food. And you told a story about, you only came for a few years to New York. So every summer, my sister and I would go to New York. One time we took a bus from New York by ourselves. She was 15 or 16. I was a couple of years younger. We went across the country. We had several stops. We had to change buses in St. Louis alone. At the bus terminal. Insane. Huge. We actually took the time to go up the arch, looked over the city, and then went back down. You take a little, it's like an elevator thing. So,
amazing.
Yeah, I don't know what she was thinking, but Mom, she was like, yeah, you can do it. Go. Well, you'll be fine. But when I turned 16, apparently I didn't come for the summer.
Right. And we remember why.
Well, you remember one reason why, and I remember another reason why.
I remember. Right. Exactly.
And what was the reason?
I think you might have just made up that as an excuse.
What was the reason that you said I didn't, that you recall that I didn't come back to New York that summer?
So you told your mother and you told me that we didn't have enough food in the house.
Well, that could be true, right? Because you didn't have a lot of snacks.
Right.
Except in the evening.
We had breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then we'd have stuff at night, right?
Yeah, it was typically like a pepperoni and cheese, right? And crackers. That was what you had. That was a nice snack. Sometimes popcorn.
Yes,
like
and
that.
ice cream sometimes, right?
Yeah, ice cream in the summertime, we had that quite often. Okay, but you know me. I mean, I have a voracious appetite, and my metabolism was just so crazy. And
you were 16. You were 16. You were supposed to be hungry.
Well, and I was wrestling. I was practicing like 5 hours a day, even in the summertime. So I had this really sadistic coach. No offense to my coach, but he was a marathon runner. No, he's a marathon runner. And we used to have to get up in the mornings and run with him. Whatever his training run was, we had to run it. In our off, like if it was Christmas vacation, First we went to the weight room at like 5:30 in the morning, and then we went for his run. If it was 8 miles, it was 8. If it was 12, it was 12. If it was 6, it was 6. He never took us more than 12 miles. But not everybody could go 12 miles, I'll just tell you. But we did the best we could. And I'll tell you what, though. I was in good shape. I remember at 16, I took second in the Corinth River races where you had to run down like as a mile downtown, swim across the river, get out, run back across the bridge, and run a mile back to the school. That wasn't bad for a kid who'd never done that before. But back to the story.
Yeah, no kidding.
So you had said that I had told you there wasn't enough food, which may have been true to some extent. But what I recall is Mom had given me the option not to go to New York for the summer. And as a 16-year-old young man who was motivated by more than food, or lack thereof, because I'm sure that there was not going to be any more food in the house if Mom left me home alone for the summer.
Yes, this is true. If any food.
Yeah, exactly. So it may have been, I did work. I worked all summer. I did a good job of supporting myself, but I may have had a party or two at the house. I'm not sure. I'm just saying.
Only one or two?
Yeah, let the cat out of the bag. Maybe more. Maybe many more. As a matter of fact, people still talk about the parties that I had at the house.
There you go.
Yeah, it was interesting. The police never came. The neighbors never said a word. They would walk out every morning. I'd be like, "Hey," picking up beer bottles on the front yard or whatever cans. They'd be like, "Hey, how you doing, Patrick?" I'm like, "Good, okay, everything okay? Yeah. When's your mom come back out? A couple weeks, okay." Well, they never said a single word until she got back. And then they came over for like a 3-hour meeting and apparently had given her not the Cliff Notes version, but the Encyclopedia Britannica version of what had happened that summer. So on top of that, my friend David Fry had pierced my ear. And what else? I think I probably had I don't think I had a mohawk that time, but anyway, it was an interesting summer, so to speak. A piece of furniture may have gotten broken. I'm glad I was really good at repairing stuff. But I had a choice: take the piercing out, and stay in and not go out for like 6 weeks, or leave the house. Which I quickly took the earring out and put a bunch of alcohol on it, let it heal, and promptly started doing my homework. And it wasn't even school hadn't started yet, so I kind of.
Well, I think then the next year. Well, first off, I want to say, my kids have told me they've had parties. A couple of parties when I wasn't there, but I don't want to know about it. Honestly, I don't want to hear about their parties. I know it didn't happen very often, but I really don't want to know a thing about it, right? Like, that's water under the bridge. Don't tell me about your parties, right?
I was pretty good. Like, I was more like the keymaster. Right, I didn't want anybody to get hurt. Okay. You had to put your keys in a bag. I held the bag, and then you had to get your keys. You could only get them from me if you left, and I had to make sure you're sober. So we had a lot of people sleep on the floor. I had people sleep on top of the picnic table in the backyard. Stuff like that. So anyway,
and then one year, I think the next year I called up. This is going to sound terrible as a human being, but I think I called up Mom and said, like, we need a summer off. Because, that we're running the kids around, and it just feels like if we could just take one summer off, then that would be great. And I always kind of regretted it, but it was like hard for my husband at the time. It was hard for the kids, and I don't know, but, and then I never said that again.
Well, and then, Bernice and I didn't have cars when we were there, right? And so we either had to use one of yours or you had to take us somewhere. My friends were not in Saratoga. Mine were in Corinth. Hers were in Saratoga or hers were all over the place. And so I could see how that could be a pain. I remember riding Jeff's bicycle. So your former husband's bicycle from Saratoga to Corinth, which is how far? I don't know. How far is it?
A long time, 20 miles.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So
20 miles, 20 miles.
Yeah, I was like 13, I think. And but I rode it to our brother's house, and and I can understand that logistically it was difficult, and I don't blame you for wanting to take a summer off. But we always had such a good time, and food played such a central role, and
it sure did.
One of the fun things that I remember in the summertime, even before we moved, is that my father's family, our father's family, his youngest sister lived right across the street from where I lived with my parents and my sister. Right. And, you three were much older. You had already moved out. But they all played either guitar or sang or drums. All of the uncles did. And they would have they had a pavilion that was, like a screen door mesh on the sides, and a concrete floor, and it had a couple picnic tables in there, and they would have a jam session. So 4 or 5 of the uncles, or 3 or 4 of the uncles, would get together, and it's funny because our Uncle Walt, who lived across the street, I never knew could even. He was a big deep voice, and but when he sang, he had such a great voice when he sang. I was like, wow, where'd that come from? It's like a Gomer Pyle.
Right.
You know, when you looked at him sing, Jim Neighbors, you're like, what? Where'd that voice come from? So, but there was always such great food, so much stuff that everybody brought to the table, and because everybody had the food from our garden and Grandpa's cattle, and everybody else had whatever else they made, and it was fantastic.
Yep.
So I was very programmed by food, and I think that's part of the reason it became such an important part of my life. Plus, there were periods when I went hungry. So
you did credit me one time.
I did?
For sparking some of your food desires because of like the ham roll-ups and the stuffed shells and the things that we'd have at Christmas time.
Baked ziti.
And baked ziti and it would be hard to believe that I could spark anyone's interest in food, but at one point you did say that. But I think it was because of the holiday stuff.
No, well, but
the summer stuff.
Your style of cooking and Mom's style of cooking were very, very different. She would do like Salisbury steak, or Swiss steak. She would take a thin cut of steak that had like a sirloin with bone in, and she would or a top round or something, either round, and she would broil it with like this chunky tomato sauce on top and sliced onions and things. Yep. But yours was a lot of pastas, and you ate a lot lighter pastas and less meat, salads, a lot of salads you had at your house, which I loved. But it was very different, and I did appreciate the difference. It made a bit, it broadened my palate, that's for sure. And
okay, well, maybe that's it.
Well, you worked full time. You ate a lot more simply than Mom. Mom would take several hours to cook sometimes, and you had a full time job and kids and a second full time job, and now we won't go into the rest of the details, but it took a lot of time and effort. So, but now we talked a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about what you brought up with archetyping, right? So personality is one thing, right? But personal action is something different. So
say more about that.
Well, in my opinion, so personality is like the characteristics that define us as other people see us. Right, your personality. Okay, but personal action may a lot of times counteract that, or counterintuitive to that.
Do you mean like personal behaviors or habits?
Yeah, personal behaviors. Well, so it's funny because some people say they're not good at things. I'm not good at math. I was talking to one of our listeners, Pat, and so I don't know, Pat, I don't remember how to say your last name. It's Gumir, I think. But we were talking, and she said she's not good at math. And she goes, I had a teacher try to teach me over and over and over what compound interest is for like a year, and he couldn't teach it to me. I taught her to in 30 seconds, right? So there you go. First is, do you have someone who can teach you in a manner that you can understand that subject matter? And B is, when you say you're not good at something, it's typically something you don't like, or that you've told that you're not good at. You've been told you're not good at. Right?
Right. Yeah. So you're talking about beliefs and behaviors.
Yeah, beliefs and behaviors, but how we kind of incorporate that into our personality, right? We incorporate those beliefs into our behavior and our personal behavioral patterns. So
So when I talk about these things, I talk about like the brain science, how up until we're 6 years old, we are in what's called the theta state. This is Bruce Lipton's work, Biology of Belief. He wrote this book, and I love that he's a biologist, and then he's talking about us, like why we become the people we are. So
that two to 6 or 7, right? Is that critical?
Yeah, actually 2 to 7, right? You read his stuff and thought about him. And then from there, we kind of create these patterns and these subconscious like behaviors that we don't even know we have. So we're really a bunch of 7-year-olds running around because we don't know it. And where the archetypes come in is like you have sort of a way of seeing the world that you don't know you have. Like, for instance, we see things through pictures and we view things like the kind of movies that we like or the kind of people that we hang around with. So if I say to you the word hero, what's the image that you get? Like most people get the image of a fireman or somebody running into a burning house and rescuing somebody, or and there are characteristics that go around with a person who carries a hero archetype with them. Mm-hmm. And so if you know who you are at your core, then you can align with that and stop fussing about other people because maybe they just don't align with that. They align with some other thing like a magician, or I tend to have a magician archetype, and my husband Kevin, he's got a sage archetype, and so I feel like once again it's like my mission to change how people see each other. Mm-hmm. And how we can all more collaborate and work together in a beautiful kind of way. So what'd you hear?
So would I fit into the bullshitter archetype? Is that basically what it be?
Oh yeah, I mean there are lots of those.
No, well there are. The way I had to take humanities classes in college, right? And I know we're off the food topic, but this actually applies to business, which is what we're going to talk about. No,
it does.
So we have about 5 minutes left in the segment, and we're going to go through the break, if you don't mind staying over for 4 minutes after that.
Okay.
Because I want to apply this to how because Pat and I, the other day, had this conversation, and not exactly, but I want to tell how this applies in other situations. Well, we won't talk about theirs, but this first and foremost, you talked about that critical formative stage, right? The 2 to 7, 2 to 6.
Right.
So that's where we develop our patterns and our beliefs about, or our beliefs around money, love, relationships, so on and so forth, right? We believe those are core beliefs, but they aren't core beliefs, those are programming. And so whatever your parents' relationship was, or whatever the significant relationships in your life were at that time, you tend to view things as that being the normal case. If you're told that money doesn't grow on trees, it's hard to find, the rich will always have it all, you'll never have anything, well, you think money's scarce, so on and so forth. That's pretty common knowledge. You talked about we all see different things in a different light, right? So one of the things that the way that was described to me is that we have this, it's not just that age of that, that kind of that age where we're programmed, or
2 to 7.
Yes. But as we grow up, these experiences, we all have a clear filter when we're born, right? But these experiences put scratches across, either scratches or buff, like they buff a certain part of the lens, or they scratch a part of the lens. And basically, we have this crisscross mesh of scratches, dents, bruises, and really clear areas that we can see through. And that's the filter through which we see life. So our love life may be clear, but our business life has all these scars on it, right? And so we see things differently, and it's through that filter that we each have that's based on our own experiences and the scar tissue or the clarity that's built up through that experience, and that's what you see. So I don't know if that's an easier way or more difficult way, but that's how it was explained to me.
No, I like it, but the thing I would add is also once we become present to whatever archetypes are sort of ruling us or are integrally inside of us and the way that we view the world, then we have the power to make the changes that we want. And also the latent archetypes that we have no use for, but limits our perspective of other people. So I totally agree with what you're saying.
Ouch.
And I hope that made sense.
Oh, yeah, no, that last statement right there, that's the hardest part, because, limiting your self-belief is one thing. When we start limiting the belief in other people or what they can achieve, becomes a painful realization for many of us.
Yep.
I just threw myself in that category. Did you hear that?
What?
I just threw myself in there. So for many of us.
There you go, baby.
Yeah, as I adjust my jacket uncomfortably here. No. I mean, I'm just, you think about that. You put up these parameters in which you think people should live within this box within your life, right? And when they don't, then you're like, you start judging this inaction or action or incorrect behavior that you think is incorrect or whatever it is. Yeah. And so you put limitations on what you think they should achieve or what they should be doing or how they should do it, so on and so forth. But all that aside, we have about a minute left. So are there how do you discern this? How do you discern what your aptitude, attitude, what your core being is versus what you have been molded to be or programmed to be?
Well, there can be a million ways, right? But since we're talking about archetypes, one of the things that you can do is go to the Culture Talk website and take the archetype test, which is like $100 and something. I can't remember right now. And it's worth it. Or you could do that and then do some work with me around that, or some other archetype coach. Or there are other ways to do it too. Just like start looking at your patterns. Like what's the theme that follows me through my life? What are my values? Who am I really? Where am I betraying myself? Where am I judging other people? Where am I, there's so much that we can do to help ourselves,
Yeah, Jeff is looking at me, glaring at me through the glass like, dude, don't judge me through the glass. He's not. He's laughing at me.
That's great.
Actually. Jeff's such
I love
it.
He's
such a cool guy. I'll tell you how many
He's like, oh, you're asking a lot, buddy, right?
Well, I'll just tell you, we are very grateful to have you here, Jeff. I'm telling you, we're so happy to have you on board here at CMB. Cuddle Me Buff, which is 2 channels. By the way, if you don't know what CMB Cuddle Me Buff is, look it up. It's not Hold Me Naked. You'd be surprised at what it is. Look it up. I want somebody to tell me. Make a comment on Facebook. We'll be right back. Chef Patrick Mosher with my sister Karen. Give us 4 minutes.
This is the only 24-hour Take Anywhere platform dedicated to food and fun. We're Spoony.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm John Scott. President Trump's latest tariff hike on Chinese goods has kicked in.
The administration has now boosted tariffs from 10 to 25% on some $200 billion worth of Chinese imports. Negotiators are meeting again today here in Washington to try and end the trade dispute between the world's 2 biggest economies. The president says the talks are moving in a very congenial manner, but there's no word on whether they've actually made progress.
That's correspondent Sagar Magani. Despite opposition from the president, the House has easily passed a $17.2 billion disaster relief package and sent it to the Senate.
The White House demanding money for border security and angry that Democrats added funds for Puerto Rico. Ohio's Marcy Kaptur.
The president's refusal to recognize Puerto Ricans as the American citizens they are is unconscionable.
Nebraska Republican Adrian Smith, whose state was hit by major flooding, voted for the measure despite reservations.
I realize this bill is not perfect, and there are a number of issues I hope we can address moving forward.
The Senate could take up the measure, but it's unclear if the president would be willing to sign it.
Capitol Hill correspondent Wally Hines. Also at townhall.com, military experts say new missiles tested by North Korea over the past week look a lot like a missile the Russian military has been trying to sell abroad for years. So for now, it's unclear whether North Korea built the missiles or bought them from Russia. Charges won't be filed against the suspects in a suburban Denver school shooting until next week. The suspects had been scheduled to appear in court today to learn the charges against them. There was no immediate explanation, but during the initial hearings this week, prosecutors had asked to wait until Monday to file charges. They have now decided on Wednesday. On Wall Street, the Dow briefly in positive territory, now down a dozen points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Are you tired of high cable TV rates? Sign up for Dish today and get a $500 bonus offer while supplies last. Plus, lock in your price for 2 years guaranteed. Call All-American Dish, your Dish authorized retailer now.
800-570-6630. 800-570-6630. That's 800-570-6630. Offers require credit qualification, 24-month commitment, early termination fee, and e-auto pay. Restrictions apply. Call for details.
Have you done it? You catch a glimpse of yourself in the mirror?
I'm one of those people you don't want to see naked.
Yeah, most of us. But I mean, you look and you're going, what the?
I know.
How did I get to whatever?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, it's horrible. Hey there, it's Doc Thompson and Brad Staggs to tell you about a different way to shed those pounds. This is brand new tech. It's only been around for a couple of years or so. It was based on research from the University of California that said there's a molecule called OEA that's found naturally in your body. It produces it in the Mediterranean diet, that when taken in concentrated amounts, it will actually make you feel fuller and boost your metabolism.
I've lost about 10 pounds so far.
It's amazing.
It
now,
really is cool.
a company said, we can take this to market and make this great product that'll help you. It's called RidUZone, RIDUZone.com, RIDUZone.com. It's Brad's worked. It's worked for Brad's, worked for me, countless other people. Go to RidUZone.com and try today. You're going to love it. RidUZone.com. Remember that, RIDUZone.com. It looks like you're losing.
I am.
Are you losing weight?
I am losing. I've lost about 10 pounds.
How are you doing it?
It's a funny name, but I've done it with RidUZone, RIDUZone.com, and the stuff works. It's, you get into all that, the molecule this and the found in that. All I can tell you is it makes you feel full, and it keeps your mind off of wanting to overeat.
And also boosts your metabolism, so you're burning more.
Yeah,
Try it today. It's going to work for you like it's worked for Brad and countless other people. RidUZone.com, RIDUZone.com.
And it's time to get to the meat of the matter. It is the entree, the third course, the third segment of my show. That is, y'all know what show it is. Forget it, man. It's Patrick Mosher, Food Biz Pro. And Karen, are you still there? Can you hear me? She had said she couldn't hear anything earlier. I don't know if she dropped or not. But anyway, Karen, if you're listening, call back. Apparently you did drop.
Yeah, it shows that she's here, but evidently not.
Okay, well, I'll have her call back.
That's weird.
No worries. No worries. Too many ways to talk to people nowadays, right? Must have dropped. Sorry, Karen. Yep, that's your brother for you. Okay, so here's a problem when I type. I have real problems with technology. I have a German keyboard and an English keyboard, so if I start to misspell an English word, it automatically tries to go to the next closest German word. So she should call back here in a sec. So what we're talking about is archetyping, and the reason I thought it was really important that we talk about this is a lot of times you have a business venture you want to try, or you head out on that road and you're gonna take a leap of faith and you're gonna do the thing you always dreamt about, and you saved all your money and you finally had the chance to do it, and it doesn't work out. And when she calls back, we'll get deeper into that. But in the meantime, you ever heard of the tomato? What's the tomato festival in Spain where they throw tomatoes at each other? It's the what is it? La Tomatina in Buñol, Spain. That's right. So they throw tomatoes. There's people up on this kind of like a big cart pulled by a tractor that throw tomatoes at the crowd, and they throw them back. And I don't know. I'm not one for throwing food at each other, but I was looking at some of these other weirder festivals. One is like they have the Herring Festival in Denmark, and it's just, I mean, they basically celebrate these big schools and of herring coming through, and they for some reason she says she can't get through. Maybe close that line and reopen it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's already done. I've already disconnected her and everything, so I'm
okay. Maybe check and see if the other one dropped. I don't know. Oh, I kind of hear her.
You don't hear anything.
No, I hear something coming through. There must be.
Oh, that's over there on the other side.
It's got to be her show. Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, so it's fine. Just keep trying, Karen. I'll send you another text. But let's see. Okay, to open my phone, I'm try again. That's not the password, Patrick. No, that one didn't work either. Yeah, she said she'd keep trying. All right, so I was looking at these 20 weird festivals. I know festivals aren't necessarily the meat of the matter, but I love smoked herring. I like pickled herring. I like herring and cream sauce. But this place in Sunday, Vide Sunday. I don't know if that's right or not, but it's HVIDE, Denmark. They have the annual herring festival. So what this celebrates all the big schools of herring which migrate through this one fjord, and it basically becomes a bottleneck. And that's where they have the herring the herring fishing world championship, which I did not know existed. So whether you like it fried, filleted, pickled, or fish caked, you're in luck because apparently they have it all. Anyway, they have a herring recipe of the year contest. Ooh, that could be a fun one to try and participate in. I'll have to come up with some herring recipes. But, speaking of another fish festival, there is one in Florida where they throw, I want to say it's smelt. I want to say they throw smelt across the state line into Where is that one at? I think it's into is it the Gilroy Garlic Festival? They throw it. I forgot what's going, but they throw it across the state line from Florida. I think it's I don't know which other state, but they throw it across the state line. I mean, why in the world would you catch fish and then throw them across the state line? You must really, really hate your neighbors. Cause that's kind of an asinine thing to do. That's just mean. I mean, I used to like people from Florida, but I'm starting to rethink my opinion. That's just kind of and plus you're wasting food. You don't waste food. Remember, there are people starving in Africa. All right. So, and there really are. So they have the Boston Local Food Fest. That's not a big deal. I mean, I don't see how that's a big deal. I don't see anything interesting or strange there. The Street Eats Food Truck Festival. That's a cool one. That's in Scottsdale, Arizona, actually. And that hasn't been around all that long, probably maybe 10 years. But if you don't like food trucks, there's something wrong with you. There really is. Now, there are some roach coaches, as we used to call them in Arizona when I did construction growing up. Those were not my favorite. And can somebody check and see if she's on the line? I don't know. She's still not able to get through. Hey, worst case scenario. Oh, she's there. Can somebody answer the phone for me? Hello? Hello? Ron. Thank you, sir. Poor Ron. He's got like 15,000 things to do, man. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And then Cheryl will be calling at 2:30. All right. So, Karen, are you there? Hello.
Yes, I am.
Hey, welcome back. Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
but,
thank you.
Yeah, I was.
I had to restart my phone.
So. So it was on your end.
Yeah, I don't know. No, I have no idea. It just wouldn't go through. So
that's okay.
Yeah.
I was talking about crazy food festivals. There's one in Florida where they threw mullet across the or smelt across the state line. I'm like, I don't know which state they throw it into. I don't really care, but I'm like, why would you do that? Well, I mean, you must really hate your neighbors. I mean, it's not like chunkin' punkin' contest to see how far you can throw. I mean, they just take the dead raw fish and throw it across the state line. That's kind of gross, but on that note, we should probably
does not sound like fun.
No. So I was explaining also that this whole thing about archetyping and how your personality is and how you're programmed, right? Growing up, they all determine what you believe you can do, what you probably end up doing, and what you, a lot of times even where your strength will lie and not lie, because you will pursue things that you think you should instead of what you really probably should have, right? Based on your personality type.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. And the truest part of you, you know what I mean? Hey, not to get off topic, do you remember the fish hatchery in Vermont?
Well, the one I used to call the fish factory, yes. I remember that very fondly, yes.
The fish factory, yes. I remember that. Anyway, you just reminded me.
Well, so that's kind of cool. Actually, our Aunt Bertha, aunt kind of, whatever she was, our family was kind of mixed up in that sense. We didn't know that our aunt was actually our grandmother and some other oddities of our family upbringing. But
yeah, exactly.
But she lived in Vermont in a little town called Pittsford, near Rutland, Vermont. And they lived, it was really cool that you kind of drove up this valley and it was like the scenic covered bridge. It's just like the most perfect Vermont setting.
Beautiful.
It's ridiculously beautiful.
Yeah.
And as you drive up, you come across this little creek, and to the right, you can't really see what's there, but there's this structure, and you go up the hill, and they had that, these rolling fields. There's a little church on the left, and where our cousin was the minister, and then her house was up just past those fields on the left-hand side. She owned the land on both sides. Beautiful. Yep. Well, that little place actually was a salmon fish hatchery, Atlantic salmon. Yeah. And they had like the tanks were the minnows, and then they had slightly larger tanks and or larger fish in the next tank, and there were all these concrete basins, basically long rectangular concrete basins, and then they had the big covered ones, and the covered ones were the big fish. I mean, because they knew if they left them uncovered and they didn't have some sort of really strong sighting, we would catch the fish and eat them. Just saying, because I would.
Or the fish would jump out, right?
Well, yes, and but what was cool is they had programmed the fish to really go crazy when you clapped your hands, because that was feeding time. They would go around like this, clap their hands, and the fish would start this rolling, like especially the minnows and not the minnows, but they're like 8-inch long fry, I guess you call them. They would start really churning the water, and they had remember the little machine they had there? They had a little, looked like a gumball machine, but it gave you fish food.
Yes.
Yep, and it was a
I do
dime.
remember
It was
that.
a dime. I remember it was a dime because we never had dimes. We had quarters.
Yep.
Like, damn it, I want a dime. Give me a dime. And so, but you could get a little handful of food, and it was basically pellets. It was whatever fish food they fed the salmon, and we go down there and feed them. And I would beg over and over and over to do that. Please, can I go feed the salmon? Can I go to the fish factory? Yes, go away. Hike down the road and go feed the fish yourself. But there was another odd structure there, too. Do you remember this? Across the street, as you came back up the hill, about halfway to the church, there was another covered structure. And we used to call it quicksand. Do you remember that?
No.
So it was a sandy area, like it was basically like river bottom or creek bottom, but without so many rocks in it. And there was it had a wooden structure that was about knee high or a little higher that was just siding, and then it had mesh on the sides, and then it had a roof. And what that was, I never knew this. I was there. Oh, don't dump in there. It's quicksand, because it looked like the water. It looked like the sand was bubbling. Right? It was a spring.
Huh.
It was a wellspring. So
How'd I miss this?
I don't know, but that was a spring head that actually fed into the creek. It wasn't the head of that creek, because that was a pretty big creek. But that was a freshwater spring that fed into that. And I think most of the wells around there kind of tapped into that. That's why they didn't want anybody messing with it. But I always thought it was quicksand bubbling up a little bit. I was like, "Ooh, quicksand! Let's go see the quicksand." Oh well, I wasn't that smart.
Probably your brother Gary was.
Probably
trying to scare you and telling you it was quicksand, right?
All right, so one more quick story before we talk about archiving. So we had there were 5 children. I was the youngest, and I wasn't very old when you and Gary and Karen, by the time you had moved out. Well, actually, you and Gay moved out. Our oldest sister and you were the third, but our brother stayed there with his wife and their first child for a little while. Gay had already moved out, got married, and had a son, and you were already living in Saratoga, or wherever you were. But before that all happened, I was it must have been pretty young. I couldn't have been more than 3 or 4, probably 4, because we moved to the other house later. It was a beautiful kind of Victorian front house. It wasn't really big and bold. It was a beautiful white siding house. It had a wraparound porch on 3 sides, and it was just a beautiful property. It had a couple apple trees that were up on the top of the hill towards the road. And anyway, all the bedrooms are on the second floor except our parents, right? Well, it used to be on the second floor, but then they enclosed the garage and put their bedroom down there. Well,
wait, we did not have a wraparound porch.
Well, it was on 2 sides. It was on the side with it was on 2 sides. It was, we had the big concrete porch in the front, and then we had a porch in the back, because that's why you got in trouble. And there's a porch on the side that faced the road as well, on 9N. Right? So it was on 2 sides.
There was? No.
Well, the roof hung. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter, because it was on my side. So there was a tree outside my bedroom window. Right. I was 3 or 4, and
yes, there was.
Yes, and for some reason, I don't know why, but I asked my father why the ladder was leaning against the tree outside my window, and he said, "What ladder?" And I said, "That ladder." And he goes, "Huh." So apparently that night, because when I went to sleep, now I remember why you and Gary were always in my room at night. I was supposed to be asleep. You were like, shut up and go to sleep. Okay, so you two used to sneak out my window because it faced the back of the house, and yours faced the front and the side. So, and that was too close to Dad's room. So I said, why is the ladder there? Dad said, I don't know, but I'm going to find out. And apparently he waited that night, and he was on the roof when you stepped out my window, apparently. Something like that.
So here's what happened. So Gary always went first. He would go out, and then I would follow him. So he starts to head out the window, and then he starts to back in right on top of me, because and right behind him follows Dad. He had literally been sitting there waiting for us.
So he was on the roof over the porch, basically, back there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. You got it. Yep. Right there waiting for us.
Gary is such a prankster. Oh my gosh. I can't tell the mean stuff.
And I was like, "What are you doing? Go, go, go. What are you doing? What are you coming in back in for?"
He deserves it. Gary, I love you. Love you. But, so our brother, his brother-in-law, Perchy, Jeff, right? So he, Whatever. Anyway, so he was wearing a flannel shirt one time, like a blue black flannel shirt, and he came upstairs and they'd put a red cloth, one of those red oil cloths, the mechanic cloths underneath it, because Dad always had those in the basement. They're playing pool or something in the basement. He comes up and he goes, oh, and I'm like, what? I was like 4 years old. I got stabbed in the heart. He got stabbed in the heart. I'm like, I'm freaking out. I'm 4 years old. Some teenage kid's dying in our basement. He's like 19 years old. I'm like, what is going on? I mean, he tortured me. I'm glad you got caught, Gary. I love you.
Yeah.
One time you paid the price.
Yeah. Yeah.
He
was pretty good with me. I don't know why, but he tortured me a little bit, but not that much. I think he tortured you more.
Well, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Bernice used to do the same thing when I was a teenager. So,
yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's okay. So the family stories can stop for a minute, but although we have a million,
Yes.
So, I talk about a lot in consulting, and I always ask people, why do you want to do this, right? Like, and you brought up the instance of chefs. Well, a lot of times what happens is people, they want to do something. They're a creative, or they're it doesn't matter. They could even be someone that has very linear thinking, like bookkeeping, or and that's actually that wasn't meant to be judgmental, but just a explanation. So, but they think they want to do this, and so they save and they save and they save, or they wait for the right time. They invest in themselves to be able to perform this function, and they start their own business. The problem is they don't really understand where their interest really lies. Right? They're basically in love with the thought of the business, right, and not the actual guts of the business. And then they also don't sometimes realize that they may not understand all facets of the business, and that they may not be suited to or willing to perform all those functions. Like in the restaurant, you said chefs want to own a restaurant.
Well, I think it's like there's a fantasy side of owning a business, right? When you've worked in a restaurant, like you work long hours, but I think people get this in their head, like, I'm doing all the work and the owner's making all the money, and they're just running around here telling everybody what to do, and then get it in their head like, well, I'm just going to open my own restaurant, which is great, but most people don't know how to even balance their books, or the first thing about well, you always talk about like the pricing things right, well, knowing what your numbers are for the food.
The business of business.
Even know where to start. What's that?
The business of business,
profit
right?
Margins. The business of business. There's tons of it. How do you hire people? How do you work with people? How do you keep things clean? How do you, And so people own a business based on a fantasy. And it's not just restaurants, it's coaches like myself. It's anyone who owns a business. Like, there's more to it than what we think, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, that was like a big thing about that, right?
Well, there's marketing and branding, right? And then there's website, and then
website.
So a lot of people, they want to do the work, right? They want to do the good work. They want to do the fun work. They don't necessarily understand all the grunt work that's behind that. One of my questions that I started asking myself, and also I ask my clients now, is, and we've spoken about this before, but it's not, what are you willing to do to help your business survive or ensure it survives, but what are you not willing to do? That's a very important question to ask yourself when you get ready to open a business or take on any undertaking that's going to change your life dramatically. What are you not willing to give up that you have right now? It's super important.
And even more importantly, Patrick, a little bit is like, do you know what you need? How do you discern like what needs to be done so that you can know what you're not willing to do?
Well, and that's true.
You know what I mean?
So knowing the business model first and foremost. Again, I use I use this all the time. But chefs are we're passionate. We want to have control. We're like what did I say we were earlier? We're controlling creatives, right? Right. We want to share our passion, but from our perspective. We really want to share it just from our vision, and we don't really like people meddling with that. We don't. We'll accept it if we'll tolerate it if we have to, but we don't like it very much. So What happens is you go into a business and you have your dead set on, we're going to serve this style of food with this type of seasoning, and it's going to look just like this on the plate, and it's going to be like, and we're going to charge this much, and well, your clientele base may not want that. So are you willing to, or are you able to mentally, emotionally, creatively, change your model? Okay. And and not only that, then you start having this, there's this, again, pride over profit, right? Are you look, I've had to ask so many business owners, so many restaurant owners to tell them to fire their relatives. It's the hardest thing in the world to do, but are you afraid of losing face in front of that one person and what may happen to your family, as opposed to losing the business? And that's all conjecture by your part, because a lot of times, if they're not engaged in the business and don't really care, they're just mailing it in, right? They're just showing up to get a paycheck. Then they don't really care about it anyway. They don't care. You let them go. They're like, oh, fine, I can finally go do something I want. I was just here because I thought you needed my help.
Right.
Okay. Not always, but a lot of times.
Like there's so many hard decisions that you have to make in a business. I've had 2 businesses that have failed, so I know a lot lot failure, and I know
only
a lot about
2?
success.
Well, look at me. Jeez.
Only 2.
Oh, wow.
So far, only 2. Yeah, I mean, there's still time, but I'm a lot smarter now. So failure is almost, unimaginable, but who knows, right? Things can happen, but you know what I mean.
I do, absolutely. I've had several businesses. But again, so understanding your business, there's something else that comes with this, right? The number one complaint of self-employed people or small business owners, and we're going to talk about the difference between that and an entrepreneur in a minute, but small business owners, their number one complaint is that they have to spend so much time working in the business that they can never work on the business. Right? The day-to-day grind.
Absolutely. And that.
Yeah, you can go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
No. I mean, I'm always interrupting you. What's new about that, right?
Well, we are from New York, and we're the 2 that got to speak the least, probably. But yeah. So it's like there's so many things to get done on a daily basis. That daily grind of running an operation, and 9 times out of 10, or 99% of the time, it's much more efficient to just do it yourself than train someone else. And then you start fearing, if I have to pay him to do it, I'm going to run out of money. But here's the deal. Understanding what you should delegate and what you should do yourself is vital, because a lot of times you retain those tasks that you're not good at or you don't like. And what happens is you procrastinate, you may make mistakes, and you're just probably not proficient. So, like a lot of people say, I'm not good at math, or they want to be just the creative person, and they don't mind doing the other business, taking care of the other aspects such as managing people, but they don't want to do the books. So you need to decide that has to go in your numbers, your projections before you open your business, so that you understand what your overhead is really going to be. All right.
Well, hopefully. Absolutely. But, if you don't, then you have to make the hard choices to change, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. And real quick. So, what it makes when you're employing someone, I think about popular people and not so popular managers, right? In the restaurant service especially. And the one thing I've noticed is being fair, right? Within your decision-making and your action taking. Towards everyone equally. The good manager versus the great manager, the biggest difference is that great managers are willing to make unpopular decisions that are the best for the business and the employees.
Yeah.
They're difficult choices that you have to make, and they're not always pleasant, right?
Yep.
But and now real quick, we have about a minute and a half left. The myth of entrepreneur versus, self-employed, and that's, we talked about the E-Myth book, the book, the E-Myth. Everybody says, I'm an entrepreneur. Really? So what do you do? Oh, I work 90 hours a week in my drywall business. Okay. That's awesome. Yeah. Wow. It must be really rewarding because you work 90 hours a week. So that basically, you've bought yourself a job. You're self-employed. Self-employment is when you create a company to employ you, but you're the boss. Okay. And then entrepreneurship is the attempt to build a business, which once it's built, runs itself, and your income, your revenue stream from that should not change if you are not directly involved with the day-to-day operations of the company. Right? So when you think about a business model and you want to build an empire, Do you have a model which requires you to work within the operation daily, or do you have a model which eventually frees you and has your key management and or board or whatever running the business for you?
Well, it's interesting. So then I guess I'm self-employed. I mean, this is you mentioned this to me earlier, and it's rolling around in my brain.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna have to think about this one a lot.
Well, but
now there are things that I could do to leverage myself, right?
Yeah,
but I'm
well.
still going to have to be involved, right?
Absolutely. So, but on that though, so being an entrepreneur and being entrepreneurial are two different things, right?
Okay. All right.
I mean,
okay.
you
say more about that.
Well, I think being entrepreneurial is that entrepreneur spirit, right? Where you love to start and build things, but we're almost out of time. You going to stick over? Because Cheryl's coming on you, and Cheryl seemed to get along very well.
I could stay for one,
You don't
if you
have
want
to.
me to stay for a couple more minutes,
Well,
I will.
well, we can finish up. We can talk more on Monday, because I'd like to talk more about this. All right.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, let's
Happy
talk
Mother's
about
Day.
it on Monday.
Love you. I'll talk to you.
All right.
Have a good weekend.
Love you too. Bye, bro. Okay.
Follow Chef Patrick Mosher on Twitter @Food Biz Pro. If you're trying to quit drinking or doing too many drugs, listen to me. You don't know me and we'll never meet. I had a problem like you once. I drank and used to party a little too much till it got out of control and almost ruined my life. I realized I needed help to fix my problem before it totally destroyed me. If you've tried to fix your drinking and drug problem and you know you can't do it alone, you need to call the National Treatment Advisors. They'll immerse you into a 30-day program to replace your old habits with new habits and totally change your life. And if you have PPO private health insurance, the entire program may be covered. Fix your problem right now before it gets any worse. Get clean. Call now and learn more. 800-296-1252. 800-296-1252. 800-296-1252. 800-296-1252.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395.
Now you can fly anywhere in the world and pay discount prices on your airline tickets. Book a flight today to London, Paris, Madrid, or anywhere else you want to go and pay a lot less guaranteed. Call the International Travel Department right now at Low Cost Airlines.
800-452-1075. 800-452-1075. That's 800-452-1075.
And you've made it through 3 courses. Time for course 4. Yeah, it's fine. So she's going to text me when she comes on, so I'll let you know, hopefully. So we have Cheryl Rich Heisler coming on in a few minutes from Mixed Metaphors. And if you're having a party, you want a gift for someone for a special occasion, a birthday, anniversary, who knows, just because it's a really cool Friday afternoon and you want to give somebody a gift that keeps on giving, you could go to mixedmetaphors.com, and Cheryl Heisler will custom create drinks for your event. It's really cool. As a matter of fact, she has created a drink for us today, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. Let's make sure it posted. And I've been having a problem with, I changed for, you know what's funny is it doesn't work very well when I do it on my computer, but on the iPad it worked just fine. It actually looks better. Cool. All right. So Cheryl should be calling in any minute. And it's Friday. It's like happy hour. It's already 2:30. Man, 28 minutes left to go. Well, then I got a little bit of a drive. But other than that, it's Friday. So what are your plans this weekend? Obviously. Oh, there she is. Yeah, she's on. Hey, Ron, she should be on there. All right. So Ron running 2 studios at once because he is the... No? All right. Should be in a second. Okay. So anyway, Cheryl's calling in. Yeah, Ron has a tough job. When we're short one person on staff, he's got to run. So it's not just running back and forth because there's not an open room back there. There's a doorway to one side, a soundproof glass window between the two control
both
rooms.
shows are running phone calls.
Well, and they're also, you have to have the volume up in there,
Yes,
so you're
yes,
hearing her voice,
absolutely.
you're hearing my voice over the and then you have to answer phone calls over there with a headset. Ours you can't answer, you can't hear, you got to look.
That's right.
And so it is a true juggling act back there. I'm glad it's not chainsaws and it's just phone lines.
Oh yeah, chainsaws wouldn't work for me.
So actually, speaking of juggling, there was Manny. I forgot Chef Manny's last name, but he's the executive chef at the Tarrant County Food Bank, North Tarrant County Food Bank up here. He was talking about, they were doing a commercial. I forgot what they were promoting, but there's basically Manny's juggling these oranges, and this ballerina pirouettes through. She's doing her little twirls, and Manny drops the oranges, and the ballerina went flying in all different directions, and it was a pretty embarrassing moment. Actually, there's a clip of that. If you want to look at Trey's chat on, I want to say it was 2 weeks ago. Chef Manny from the North Tarrant County Food Bank. A really funny story, probably the most it's all entertaining because he has a great history as a chef. But on that note, we actually had a really fun interview today. Not just a great pit master, but a really great storyteller. And Cheryl's going to come on. Go ahead and let Cheryl on. But it's from what Ricky's is it? No, I can't. Oh, Risky's Joe Risky's Barbecue. And he's a really funny storyteller. It was amazing. Talks about his history in barbecue and some really great tricks on how to get the perfect brisket. You know, that sometimes that candy, that black part on the outside is kind of hard. And hi, here you, Cheryl. How are you?
Hey, how are you, Patrick?
I'm good.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. I was just talking about barbecue, and I love...
That sounds good.
I love brisket so much, and I don't care how it's prepared. If it's prepared like as a roast beef, like I was used to, and I'm sure I talked about, Jewish pot roast or roast beef, and one of my favorites is to make it with brisket. And but he did not bring any in. Here's what I need to do. Anyone, if you have a live show from now on, if you have a live show, your guest needs to bring something with them. Oh, or drink. We'll take drink. It's okay. I mean, it doesn't have to be alcoholic, but something consumable, please. You can bring bread and butter.
Your parents always taught you, right? When you're a guest in somebody's space, you bring something. That makes total sense to me.
Well, it's I know a lot of these people are like they're super busy trying to run their little businesses or their big businesses and running to and fro trying to get here and find us and make it upstairs to the studio on time. But really, that is kind of, how could you own one of the best barbecue places in Texas and not show up without some brisket or something? Wow. I got to work on this business model. I'm not sure, I'm starving both directions, wallet and stomach, but just teasing. I love what I do. I don't know what I'd do if I wasn't doing this, but probably be something food related. And Cheryl, I have two questions. Did you look at the Spoony webpage? I mean the Spoony Spoony Radio
Instagram. I saw. No. What's new?
No, did you look at the Spoony Radio Facebook page? Something worked today.
I didn't.
Running
in. I have to go there.
No. So what happened is my pre-scheduled posts with images were not coming up because whatever. Yeah, so they're up now. It came up today, but apparently, whatever I'm doing with the text, because I'm taking the text and making an image out of it and putting it in the format that you used to have, right?
Right.
And it, for some reason, though, however I'm loading it. So today I just put the text in above, and then I put the photo below, and voila, as John would say, voila, it worked. So, and on that note, what in the world is this beautiful drink, and what are we drinking Friday?
On Friday, because it's been a crazy week here too, I decided we would take it a little bit easy and take a shortcut. Is that allowed in the cooking world? Do you ever take shortcuts?
So actually, what we do is we tend to simplify, right? I wouldn't say we do occasionally take we don't call them shortcuts because that has a negative connotation, but we do certainly simplify things. I think one of the problems that restaurants get themselves in trouble with is having a menu where each menu, each dish on the menu, each item has too many steps. Right, and you're not. It's too difficult to serve your volume and keep the integrity of the food. And so simplifying things and finding ways to maintain the freshness but still be prepared to serve the masses if that should happen is very important.
I have to say, I experienced that. We opened a new show at the theater that I do the cocktails for last night, and I was on for the demos of the drink. And it was a very popular cocktail. It's not the one we're going to talk about today, but part of what made it so great was there were so many fresh ingredients. We had fresh squeezed lemons, fresh squeezed limes, fresh grated ginger, fresh grown mint, and it was a bear to get them out fast. And I was learning, and part of the bar staff, what the bar staff and I were talking about is how can you keep something super fresh and still pre-batch it so that you can make a quantity of them, because that kind of simplification is what you need. Otherwise, you can't do what you want to do taste-wise. So I can definitely relate to that. But I think this week was partly why I felt a little bit, lazy, and I went to my favorite. Well, my favorite liquor store always has a end of bin sale, and I picked up something by a company called Craft House. They make lots of different pre-batched cocktails, and usually I turn my nose up at them. But there's a recipe for a drink called the South Side, which I've made the old-fashioned way, by scratch with fresh squeezed lemon and egg white, and it's great. But it's make a mess, and so I tried their South Side. Just over ice. I went as far as walking outside to the garden, grabbing some fresh mint, slapping it around a little and dropping it in. And I got to tell you, it was so refreshing and delightful that I have to ask myself, am I going to go back and do it the old-fashioned way anymore, or am I going to simplify when it comes to my South Side urges? Because it's a great drink. And I have to say, I'm reminded that there are ways to enjoy a cocktail and not start from the beginning. I don't like to do it. I usually think it's a cop-out, but every once in a while.
Well, and so there's that question that we have to ask ourselves as people in the food and beverage industry. If there's a product that's just as good or better, and there's no loss of integrity of the ingredients, the overall perception by the consumer, right, our guest, then, and the cost point's better. All right, the price point. What do you do? Do you still continue to make it from scratch, or do you? I mean, obviously, if you're a craft cocktail bar, you don't buy this and serve it. But
that's correct.
Yeah, but if it's something that, again, event center, event space, you're serving the masses, kind of a thing, do you just buy the finished product? I mean, that's a very important question we need to ask ourselves. Where does pride win out over profit? And often, pride has to win. When you're trying to maintain the integrity of your business and your reputation. But at what point do you have to say, okay, again, like last night, so how long did you squeeze every orange and every lemon, every lime and every lemon to order? Or
every lime and every lemon to order. It was because instead of, when I designed the cocktail, it was kind of an organic program, and each one calls for a half a squeezed lemon and a half a squeezed lime. I didn't measure it out because I knew I wanted fresh squoze and drinks, right? So it made a beautiful presentation. But it takes a while, and we don't have a fancy juicer. We just had a hand juicer because we didn't expect quite the turnout and quite the interest in the drink that we had. I got to tell you, my right arm muscle today looks like I've been lifting for hundreds of repetitions.
That's funny. Oh my goodness, you poor thing. So, yeah.
No, it was good. They liked the drink. That's what's most important, and it fit really well with the theater program that we were doing. The name worked, the taste worked. We were very successful with it. So it just reminds me, just like you're talking about, sometimes simpler, if maybe not better, can be just as good.
Absolutely.
And what's that old phrase? Perfect can be the enemy of the good. Sometimes you want to be able to make those drinks or foods fast enough to keep the crowd happy. And if they're not happy, if they're waiting in long lines to get what you're making from, they're going to already start off with a negative connotation of what's coming up.
Yeah, well, so and if you want to, so in this case, I think pre-squeezing the lemons and limes would not have hurt the integrity of the drink. If it's only a couple hours long, whatever the function is. But, there's a fine line. Where do you call it quits as far as how fresh can be? Especially if your clientele base is like, just give me a damn drink. What's that song? SOB by Nathaniel, what is it? Nathaniel, what's his name? You know what I'm talking about? You never heard SOB?
I'm out of my league.
Oh, I should play the song towards the end because Facebook won't shut us off that way. It's he's talking about, she's going to try to go dry. Someone's going to need to hold him down. Somebody's going to comfort him, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, forget it. Give me a drink. He's like, he's going to try to go dry. He's like, my arms are shaking. My eyes are quaking. Bugs are crawling all over me. Forget it. Give me a drink. Son of a SOB, give me a drink. Can't quit now. It's fairly funny, actually. But it's Nathaniel Radcliffe and the Nightshades, I think is the name of the group. But they're out of the Denver area. But you should listen to it because, in our industry, it's funny. Everybody thinks that everyone in this business is a hard drinking, partier. They really do. Now, I went.
You mean that's not true?
Not so. Back in the day, maybe. But who can afford to go drinking every night, and who can afford a $20,000 DUI, and just all the chaos that happens in your life from stuff like that. And I'll be honest with you, that old adage, nothing good happens after 2 a.m. in the morning. For the most part, that's pretty true. I mean,
I like how you couch that for the most part.
Well, I'm telling you, some cool things. I mean, you stay up and watch the sunset. That's very cool. But I don't know if I've ever had. So there were 3 reasons not to show up for work, and only 2 would I accept. Okay, you're incarcerated.
Wait,
This is in a restaurant. You're incarcerated, which happened quite more than you'd think in the kitchen because we're stupid, right? We're monkeys and creatures of habit. You're incarcerated. You had somehow expired, or you were ill, but ill was not an excuse. You at least had to show up at the restaurant. I didn't make you work, but you had to show up at the back door and say, "Chef, I'm ill," because I wouldn't want you to work if you were sick.
Exactly.
Back in the old days, I probably would have made you, but I mean, 15 years ago that stopped, maybe more, because you start thinking about cross contamination, then your entire kitchen gets sick, and it's better to miss one person for one shift than everyone for many, and not to mention getting your guests sick and things like that. So, yeah, there was really 2 excuses, and you'd be surprised how many of that former of being incarcerated came into play.
The problem with the second excuse, you can only use it once.
I know. Oh, my
If you try I'm expired twice.
Can I tell you?
I don't think it worked well.
I used to write down the excuses or the reasons. We'll call them the reasons or pseudo reasons that people couldn't come to work. My aunt.
Did you see if they recycled them at least?
I did.
Didn't you use the same one twice?
My Aunt Josie died, but 6 weeks later, his Uncle Joseph passed away, and then it was his sister Jessie was sick. I'm like, and she's in the hospital. I'm like, could you use another letter? I mean, come on, Jim. Is there no one named anything but J? You're going to run out of, you're really close. What do you got? Jaime, Jose, and those don't even start. That's not even a real J. That's Spanish. All right. So, I mean, you're going to run out of names soon. And then what are you going to do? What are you going to, go through H or wait, K? Are you going to get K? Right? I mean, 1 for each employer. What? J is the 10th letter of the alphabet.
There must have been a method to that. There was a system. We just didn't crack the code.
It's they get very creative. People are like, "Oh, Chef, I'm so sick." Oh, yeah, because I saw you out till 4 a.m. last night. That's why you're so sick. I would have much more respect for people.
It wasn't technically a lie. It just wasn't good done.
Yeah. If someone called me and said, Chef, man, I was stupid. I stayed out last night. I'm so hungover. I'm still drunk. I really shouldn't drive. I'll make it there if I need to, but I'm telling you, I'm not. I'm going to be sick. I'm going to get sick, and I'm not going to be effective. And if you can tell me, at least be honest that you screwed up and own it, then I'd give you the day off. The next day, you're working brunch. You're working egg station, but that day, I might give you I could at least respect you enough to give you the day off. But when you say, I just got a car wreck, I'm sorry, giving it. Okay. No, you didn't, man. I just saw you hiking towards your house an hour ago, stumbling drunk, sweating it out. You're okay. You don't even own a car. It's like, the excuses I got. What do somebody, one guy had, what was it? Something fever. Not rheumatic fever, but something like come up with something like really. Do I need to call the CDC? Because I don't think that's something that exists in this country anymore or ever. So why don't you stay home, be quarantined?
You got to give him credit. He had to research that. He didn't just come up with it. It was really working on the excuse.
Oh, one guy they went to New Orleans overnight, got stuck there, and he couldn't get back. Their car got stolen. I knocked on his door, and he answered. I'm like,
no,
real? Yeah, like an hour after he called me, right? So, it's just like, okay, you can be so creatively, intelligent in a creative way when you're trying to deceive somebody, but you can't look out the door to see who's knocking. I didn't even hide myself. I just walked up. I took my chef coat off, walked up in a T-shirt and my check pants. Is like, oh, hey, just saying. Oh, hey, chef. Well, man, you got back really fast. Did you fly back? Because you must have been in the airport when you called me. That was really quick, man. Get your clothes on. Let's go to work. Come on, I'll drive you. You
let him stay on the job?
Oh no! I made him work. I made him work the rest of that shift and the night shift, and then close. And then I fired him.
Yeah.
Well, see, there's
a trust thing. You got to trust the people you work with. Things happen, right? But I would find that very difficult.
So yeah, and it's again, restaurants in this country. You've traveled to Europe, right?
Sure.
Okay. So if you go to Europe, especially Italy and France, and especially if you go to the countryside, these smaller communities or older communities, and out of the tourist districts, the hospitality industry tends to be a career choice. You get lifers.
Well, it's almost like an art to have guests come back and to feel comfortable in your. It's almost like your home. I think those are some of the best meals I've ever had. Some of the best experiences. Absolutely.
But here we're viewed, and the entire industry is viewed as it's an entry-level job where you're going to college, right? Or it's you're in transition, so it's until you find your next job. It's a very transient industry, is the perception, and we kind of put that people are like I talk to people, they're like, oh, what do you do? I'm a chef, okay, or I've been a chef for a long time, and I'll be honest with you, I don't do a ton of chefing now. I mostly talk on the radio and get other people to talk on the radio and other people to do things for free for me on the radio, basically. But people come up and they say, oh, cool. Oh, that's cool. I said, what do you do? Oh, I cook at Denny's. I'm just a cook. I'm like, no, man, there's no just a cook. You know how many people Denny's serves a night? You're nuts, man. That's some of the best short order cooks in the world. So I think we put this stigma on certain industries. And it's a shame because there should be pride in everything you do. If you're going to be, what's the old speech? If you're going to be a street sweeper, be the best street sweeper you could ever
be. The best one you can be. That's right.
Because you'd be surprised.
A lot of the stuff, right? We've got fast food. We've got cheap clothing. The idea of taking pride in making, whether it's a coat or a dish, it's not appreciated by everybody anymore, and that's got to be hard.
Yeah.
At least. When I'm working, let's say, at the theater, I know that those folks are there because they appreciate the arts. It's a really high-end theater crowd, and they are willing to spend the time and the money to think about what they're seeing. They don't want to just be, don't just sing and dance your way into my life. I want to be thoughtful and thought-provoking, and they like the drinks that way too. So it's a pleasure to work for a crowd like that, even if maybe sometimes things take a little bit longer. There's an appreciation of it. I think if I were just it would be harder if you're just turning drinks or meals out for a group that didn't really appreciate what went into it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think so, too. Well, and I don't know if it's ever really been viewed, at least in the last 30, 40 years. Maybe the last 50 years, right? Since the proliferation of fast food restaurants, I think that changed things a lot.
I'm sure.
I talked about the history of McDonald's yesterday, or the day before yesterday on the air. I took yesterday off because we had a little spillage of water into my my MacBook Air. No, it's not the Pro.
Oh, guys. I was going to ask you about the flooding there.
No, fortunately there was no flooding in Dallas. Houston, some areas in Houston got flooded. But so far I think everything seems good. So it's not raining here today, which is great. Dallas-Fort Worth is kind of, it was the coolest morning. It was like 52 or 53 when I woke up. It was beautiful. Walked out to my car and I was like, oh, this feels nice. And then I came right back in and went to work. But Fresh air was, well, I'm not sure how fresh it was because we're right next to the highway right here, but the cool crisp air felt really nice. But
you come to Chicago anytime. It's still plenty cool and crisp here.
Last year when we were there for the NRA show, which is next week, by the way. I believe it's Sunday through Wednesday or somewhere around there.
18th through 21st, right?
Yeah.
Friday through.
Oh,
We're
Friday
going to miss you. You're not going to be there. This is it's a definite no-show for you guys?
Well, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out a way to get there. I actually had an offer for press pass today, so I don't know. I will have to see how that goes, and I don't know.
Well, you got to let me know
because
I'm going to be there. I just don't know which days yet.
Okay, so I was actually the final table. The World Food Championships has their final table event down in New Orleans, the 17th through the 19th. And I so want to go to that one as well because it's the top 10. The 10 winners of each of the 10 categories compete in a 3-event 2-day showdown. 5 pass through after the first event, then 3 pass through, then 3 pass through to the final. And I don't know if I talked about this last week, but the final dish goes on the menu at Antoine's. So
no kidding, that's quite a prize.
Yes, and for those that don't know, Antoine's is the birthplace of Oysters Rockefeller. But on top of that, they have not put a new not put a new dish on the menu in 100 years. They were founded in 1896, and I mean, what a cool thing! They win $100,000, but they also get this their final winning dish goes on that menu. I mean.
That's impressive.
Isn't that awesome? That would be
that was a
cool.
great contest. Whoever thought that up as a prize was very, very
Mike
savvy.
McLeod. Mike McLeod, he's the founder of the World Food Championships. And actually, it's so people stay tuned to this because they're going to make this is not scripted. This is not like Food Network. Nothing is Food Network. If it weren't for them, we wouldn't be here talking about food right now and drink. But they just don't have the shows I like to watch so much anymore. And Mike McLeod is doing this really kind of raw, organic, unscripted. It's not just a chef's competition. A lot of these people are home cooks, and they win categories often. And so there's going to be a really interesting event down there. So stay tuned. Look up the World Food Championships. You can find them on worldfoodchampionships.com. That's easy. So, all right, we have one more question, Cheryl. I have like 19 million questions running through my brain. But the one that I beg to ask is, what are we drinking Saturday? Because I'm going to need another cocktail tomorrow.
All right. Well, after you finish your bottle of Southside, then we're going to switch over to a play on words. I'm calling it Crumb de Cassis, C-R-U-M, because it's a creme de cassis cocktail using not just white wine, which you often see put together with the creme de cassis, but an aged rum. So these are the brands that I had in my house. I would venture to guess any dark rum would work, but the Revelation rum happens to be excellent. It's a sipping rum. It's I don't know. Actually, I think it was a gift from a friend of mine whose taste in cocktails I trust 100%. And I got that bottle from him. So we started with 3 parts of an unoaked Chardonnay. We added 1 part of this Revelation dark rum, and then a half a part, and I use parts because depending if you're using ounces or jiggers or whatever, a half a part of creme de cassis. So you get the dark color, the deep berry color from the creme de cassis, and some of the richness. The rum adds a kick, and the white wine just sort of mellows the whole cocktail out. It's got crumb in the name, but it's not crummy. It's pretty yummy, actually.
So my mouth is watering right now. So I think an aged sipping rum is one of the most under celebrated spirits that we have. Rum is relatively inexpensive by comparison to other spirits, and you can get a really good aged rum. I mean, a small batch for a very very good price most times, oftentimes.
Now, this is a factoid I'm sure you're familiar with, but rum is actually the most consumed spirit in the world.
I believe that. I do. So why is that? So curiously, why is that? Is it
because sugarcane is inexpensive and it's available almost everywhere? People have made spirits out of whatever they can get their hands on. So it's not surprising that in Russia they made vodka out of potatoes, and in in some of the warmer countries where they grow sugarcane, they've made rum out of that. it for the longest time was perceived here in the U.S. as just something that, you drank with Coke. But you're absolutely right. Some of these new rums, the flavored rums, the sipping rums are just delicious. And to this day, I was in Cuba a few years ago, and they would have other stuff for the gringos, right? They would have scotch or bourbon, but everybody who grew up there had rum. And it wasn't just inexpensive rum. They have lovely aged rums, dark rums, sipping rums, and that's to the drink of choice. So we Americans have to get with the program.
So, Gwen and Adam Rich, of course, Gwen is the host of The Rich Solution. I visited them during the show last year and stayed with them a night, and we actually had a cigar and enjoyed a really nice glass of aged rum. I don't remember which one it was, but it was awesome. Very nice little. So this has three of my favorite things: unoaked Chardonnay, creme de cassis, and this sipping rum. You've got that rich berry, a little punch, but the smoothness of the rum, that clear, crisp, unoaked Chardonnay. This is a clear
I didn't know you
winner.
were an unoaked.
Oh, yes.
Sorry, I didn't realize you were an unoaked Chardonnay guy like I am.
I am.
The real buttery Chardonnays don't do it for me, but a clean unoaked one is delicious.
What they call malolactic fermentation, that interaction between the oak and that particular grape is not my favorite. Now, I'll drink it. There's some great oak Chardonnays, but I by far prefer unoaked.
Well, this is your drink then, Patrick.
Yeah. Okay, so I was really fortunate enough to go to a Jordan pre-release tasting a couple of weeks ago. Did I tell you about that?
No.
Okay, so I got about 30 seconds real quick, but I went to Kent Rathbun, an iconic chef in the area. You look him up; it doesn't matter. But they did a tasting at this house. Jordan Winery came in. You have to try. They're just releasing their 2015 Jordan Cab that was all French oak aged. It's the first time they've aged anything in all French oak. So it's worth it. I'm not sure what the bottle cost is, but try it. All right, Cheryl.
Okay.
We've burned through 25 minutes already.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, you have a good weekend, and I know we got a call scheduled for Monday, so I look forward to hearing from you then. And hey, happy Mother's Day. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Best to everybody on that end. Just enjoy the weekend.
Thank you. And that's Cheryl from mixedmetaphors.com. Please look her up. User services. We appreciate her very much. Y'all have a great weekend. Take care of yourselves. Be safe. Ciao for now. Listen or starve.
This is the only 24-hour take-anywhere platform dedicated to food and fun. We're Spoony.